everyone, welcome to this updated video this morning. I trust and hope you're doing great. So we have these two disturbances to talk about, one in the West Caribbean, which is unleashing a lot of rain in areas such as Jamaica. And there's also a flash flood warning in effect. We'll go on to that later in the video. And then there is that new tropical wave off the African coast, which will be moving to the west and west-northwest over the coming days. Both of these are highlighted in red, indicating a high formation chance over the course of the next several days. So we're going to be talking about them, but the one that is really of concern is our Caribbean system. So let's switch to the satellite imagery, and here we can see that there is quite a bit going on. There's that frontal system, and there is also some moisture coming in from the east for the Lesser Antilles, so maybe some passing showers and thunderstorms this morning for some areas. We've got our new tropical wave off Africa, not seen a whole lot associated with it just yet, but of course as time goes by, as it accelerates westward, it should encounter some favorable conditions to allow some strengthening to take place. And then we have that huge blob that is in the vicinity of Jamaica associated with the disturbance in the West Caribbean. Now it is designated as Invest 97L. That is the name given to it because it is an area of investigation. It's being closely watched for development. So that's where we get the high resolution hurricane data available, the track guidance, intensity guidance. We get a lot more details regarding it. So we're going to be looking at all of that in this video. And if we should look over to the Pacific, just offshore southwest Mexico is newly formed tropical storm John. Let's briefly talk about that before we hop further into the Atlantic. So John became a tropical storm recently, and if we notice, it is moving to the northeast at 3 miles per hour, not going off to the west. So it is making its way towards Mexico, and there are a couple of watches and warnings in effect: a hurricane watch, tropical storm watch, as well as a hurricane warning. So Mexican states such as Oaxaca will be experiencing those dangerous impacts as the system approaches. And looking at this graphic here, now this was when the system was a depression before it was upgraded to a tropical storm. But we can see that the maximum rainfall amount expected would be up to 25 inches over the course of the coming days, because it's such a slow-moving system and it's going to be dumping a lot of rain along the southwestern Mexican coast. So especially for southern Oaxaca, it is going to get pretty crazy. And of course, with all that flooding, that's a major problem with any tropical cyclone. The water is always the issue, whether it be the storm surge inundating the coastal areas or the heavy rainfall that is unleashed, resulting in some crazy flooding. So 25 inches in total is a lot of rain, and even for other surrounding areas up to 16 inches, 15 inches. So it is going to get pretty intense, and if you're there, please stay safe and take every necessary precaution to protect yourself and even your loved ones and pets as well, as best as possible. And as it pertains to the intensity, John has the potential to actually make it to hurricane status, even though the peak winds from the National Hurricane Center are calling for a strong tropical storm at 70 miles per hour. But it's certainly likely, possible that it could become a hurricane. But as for the Atlantic Basin, let's zoom into the Caribbean here, and we can see that blob at a much closer view. So where we see those darker shadings of those blacks and those grays and even those purples popping up, very tall clouds, normally those are the ones associated with a lot of rain and thunderstorm activity, and those white dots indicate where the lightning strikes are. So for parts of Jamaica this morning, likely some heavy rainfall, especially some of our southern parishes. And as I had mentioned at the start of the video, the northwest and southern parishes of Jamaica are all under a flash flood warning through 5 p.m. this evening. So as we head throughout today, there is going to be that probability of some significant flooding with all of this activity around these bursts of convection associated with the disturbance. And if we look there, it's being pushed off to the east. So we've got some upper level winds displacing all that activity towards Jamaica, because the low pressure center is just offshore Central America, but we see that this is displaced from it. So we've got the upper level winds in action there. But as the system eventually lifts up to the north, all of this activity is going to be moving north with it. So for parts of Central America, the Cayman Islands, Cuba, especially western Cuba, weather conditions are definitely going to be deteriorating as we head through early this week. And then, of course, what happens afterwards? Models are suggesting that this could become a major hurricane in the eastern Gulf. And as of right now, they're all favoring that Florida is going to be the target. To say we're in Florida is something that's just not known right now, but the Sunshine State could definitely be impacted by this system directly. So let's go ahead and take a look at some of that model data in a moment, but let's go on to the rainfall forecast for the short term for the Caribbean, then we'll move to that. So here we can see it. We can see these very colorful shadings associated with 97L. So heading up to the Cayman Islands, parts of Jamaica, Central America, very colorful with those red and even burgundy shadings. So there's likely to be a lot of heavy rain. Those purples indicating rainfall amounts 2.5 to 3 inches. So for the Cayman Islands, it's going to get pretty crazy, especially as we head into tomorrow. There's going to be a significant risk of flooding. And eventually, as the system continues north, further into tomorrow and even Wednesday, Cuba is going to be experiencing a lot of that rain as well. But then as we look to other areas, Hispaniola, the Virgin Islands, Puerto Rico, and through the Lesser Antilles, definitely some scattered showers and thunderstorms around today, possibly for the ABC Isles, although it's likely to remain on the drier side. Could see a few more scattered showers in the Guyanas compared to the last couple of days, and then parts of Venezuela, Colombia could also be quite active. Now, going a bit further out, through the next 5 days, that's through the end of this week, well, near the end of this week, going to late Friday, we can see that these very vibrant shadings stretch up to Cuba, going up to the eastern Gulf, and even for the Cayman Islands. So in total, the system could potentially unleash rainfall amount beyond 6, 7, 8 inches in total across parts of the northwestern Caribbean as well as the eastern Gulf of Mexico. So regardless of it developing, it is a significant threat right now in terms of the heavy rainfall. Now, looking at the model data for the system, let's first go on to the track guidance. Here we can see that these are kind of tightly packed for the most part. We see that one model taking the system more to the Florida Peninsula. The rest keep the system towards the Panhandle, and they're tightly packed. And the more tightly packed we have these models indicate a pretty great consensus. So this could be an eventual track we see of the system, although there could be some shifts around here and there. That's definitely going to be possible over the coming days. Now, as it pertains to intensity, here we have the intensity guidance, and we have these different colors: green for tropical storm intensity, yellow for Cat 1, orange for Cat 2, red for Cat 3, purple for Cat 4. A few models are definitely expected that, hey, this could become a Cat 4, but the majority on a whole agree that this could become a Cat 3, and this is the start of major hurricane intensity. So Cat 3 to Cat 5, that is what we refer to as a major hurricane. So we can see that there is decent agreement in terms of that as well. Overall, for the high resolution models, I want to show you guys some of that data as well. So it may be a little bit difficult to see, but there's a black outline of the Florida Panhandle, and we're seeing all these colorful shadings around indicating the precipitation rate. And then that L, well, that value represents the minimum central pressure. Now, up to Thursday, the 26th of September, this is the forecast pressure by the HWRF model. This is one of the high resolution models, and it is showing a 922 millibar low. That would equate to Cat 5. Let's look at the others. We have the HMOD. This one here is showing a lower pressure at 909 millibars, heading more towards the western part of Florida. So this is for late Thursday on the 26th as well. Going to the HAFS A model, taking it to the Panhandle, we see a pressure of 926 millibars for Thursday, just the same. And then HAFS B, showing a minimum pressure of around 913 or even 912 millibars. So all of these pressures are would equate to a Category 5 hurricane. So that's definitely not something out of the picture, but it's not something that is guaranteed. So I'm not saying, hey, there's a Cat 5 headed towards you. It's definitely possible. We're talking about the Gulf here. It's notorious for producing those very intense hurricanes, but that doesn't guarantee that will be the scenario with 97L. At the end of the day, it will all be dependent on whether conditions are favorable or not. When we're talking about the sea surface temperatures, they're well on their way, very warm right now. So once the upper level winds are conducive and there's lots of moisture around to help feed the system, then most definitely we could see rapid intensification take place. So it is pretty likely at this point that the system is eventually going to become a hurricane, but we still have to keep watching it because there can be changes at any time. We're talking about the weather. So let's go on now to this new tropical wave. So 70% chance of formation, and it is likely that this is going to be curving up and out. So we don't have a very dominant high pressure area out there, because if it was, we would see this headed more towards the Caribbean. But fortunately, we see where return is expected. So that is indicating that, hey, the high pressure isn't so dominant out there, it's not so strong. So we're going to have this system having the opportunity to not affect the Caribbean, which would be great. But there is going to be another tropical wave emerging behind it, and it looks as though that one could try to make its way a little bit further to the west. But nonetheless, guys, I am here to keep you posted on what is going on. And of course, this is just a general update to show you what is expected by the different models, by the National Hurricane Center. And so yeah, that's it for right now. And so I do hope you found this video to be informative. But if you have questions, feel free to drop them in the comments. I'll respond to you when I have the chance to do so. And remember to always be weatherwise.